Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel today. We are going to understand one of the most important annotations in Spring Boot, and that is at REST controller. If you are working on backend development, REST APIs, microservices, or preparing for Spring Boot interviews, then this concept is absolutely mandatory. In this video, we will understand why REST APIs fail without at REST controller, how at REST controller actually works internally, how it is used in real projects, and how you can explain it confidently in interviews. Let us start by understanding the real problem developers usually faced in modern applications. Front-end and back-end are completely separate systems. Front-end can be built using React, Angular, a mobile application, or even another back-end service. Their front-end does not expect HTML pages. It expects pure data, mostly in JSON format. Now, here is where the problem starts. When developers use traditional controllers incorrectly, Spring tries to return view names instead of data. As a result, Spring starts searching for JSP or HTML files. The API call fails, the frontend receives 404 errors, and the developer gets confused and frustrated. He often says with confusion, "But my logic is correct. Why is the API not working?" This is where many beginners struggle. The root cause is very simple. Traditional controllers are designed for page rendering, not for data delivery. Now let us clearly understand what at-rest controller really is. At-rest controller is a specialized controller that is used specifically for RESTful APIs. Its responsibility is very clear and very focused. It receives the request, it processes the data, and it returns the data. It does not care about UI, HTML, JSP, or view files. That is why at-rest controller is heavily used in backend services, microservices, APIs consumed by front-end frameworks, and mobile applications. In simple words, at-rest controller is built for data-first applications. Now comes the most important part of this topic, how at-rest controller works internally. Internally, at-rest controller is not magic. It is simply a combination of two annotations, at controller and at response body. At controller handles the incoming HTTP request. At response body tells Spring something very important. It says with clarity, whatever this method returns, write it directly into the HTTP response body. Because of this behavior, Spring does not use the view resolver. Spring does not look for JSP or HTML files. Spring directly sends the response to the client. If the return type is an object, Spring automatically converts that object into JSON using the JSON library. That is why REST APIs feel so smooth and natural when they were built correctly. Now let us talk about what happens when you actually write code using at REST controller. When you write a method inside a REST controller and return something, Spring behaves very differently compared to a normal controller. If you return a string, it is sent as but a plain text. If you return an object, it is converted into JSON. There is no view resolution involved at any stage. This behavior is exactly what we want when building modern APIs. Let us understand this with a real-life example. Think of a restaurant. In a dine-in restaurant, you sit at a table, a waiter comes to you. The waiter takes your order. Food is served with plates, presentation, and ambience. This is similar to a traditional controller returning views. Now, think of a parcel service. In a parcel service, you place the order. The food is packed and it is delivered directly to you. There is no table. There are no plates. There is no presentation. That is exactly how at-rest controller works. The client does not want derivation. The client only wants data delivered cleanly and directly. In real-world projects, at-rest controller is used everywhere. Front-end frameworks like React or Angular call backend APIs. Mobile applications fetch data from backend services. For example, the front-end calls /API/tasks. Backend returns a JSON list of tasks. The front-end renders the user interface based on that data. The backend never worries about how the UI looks. This clear separation makes applications scalable, maintainable, and production ready. Now, let us talk about common mistakes developers make. Many developers use at controller for APIs. They return view names accidentally, digging counterparty. mix MVC logic with REST logic. This leads to confusing code, runtime errors, and poor architecture. A very important rule to remember is this. If your controller is returning data, always use at REST controller. If your controller is returning views, use at controller. Never mix both in the same controller. Now let us look at this from an interview perspective. In interviews, clarity matters more than definitions. A strong answer would sound like this. He explains calmly and confidently. Add REST controller is used to build RESTful web services in Spring Boot. It returns data directly to the client and internally combines at controller and at response body, eliminating the need for view resolution. That single explanation already shows clarity, internal understanding, and real project exposure. So let us summarize everything. At REST controller is used for REST APIs. It returns data, not views. It bypasses the view resolver. It automatically converts objects to JSON. And it is a core building block of modern Spring Boot applications. If you understood this clearly, you are already ahead of many beginners. Thank you for watching. If this video helped you, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment which Spring Boot topic you want next.